Okay, everybody, it's time for the coronavirus lockdown programming update. Okay, so what I did, I want to show you real quick and then I'll explain it as best I can. So I set the currently active block to be just one block, and you notice that it pulses. It pulses so that you know which block that you're working with. As you move around, it changes. Okay, so it doesn't matter what keys you're hitting, it just so it kind of is designating the block to you. Then you hit the R or the F and then it shrinks it or raises it back up. Okay, so the way I got this to work is all right in here. So inside the render loop, okay, what we do is we set some new variables outside the loop. Okay, so we have the current index, so in other words the cube that is pulsating. Okay, we have the current scale, so I just use two floats because I'm just saving the X and the Z because the Y is the one that we're manipulating with the R and the F keys. And then I also have a pulse variable because I wanted to vary it from 0 to a certain scale. In this case 20%. So let's show you how this is actually done. The first part is right here. So as we're looping through all the cubes, okay, so the usual thing that I did before with the Y scale, okay, is it checks if it's the current active block, and then it raises or lowers if it's greater than 0, and then it raises or lowers it according to the R and F values set in the set down here. See the raise lower amount, okay. Anyways, so once that's done, then the first time through, the pulse index is initialized to 25,000. So if it's equal to 25,000 and there's an active block, then we set the index to that particular block. So the pulse index then becomes that block. Okay? And then we save the scale of that block. So the block doesn't change because this is the first frame that we've recognized the block, and we save the scale. So we save the X and the Z in the 0 and 1. Okay, so we're saving 0 and 2 here, 0 and 1 there. So next time it goes through, or the first frame, this will actually happen because it does actually equal I. But so each time it goes through the frame animation, it will check the pulse index with the current cube that it's rendering. Now, if it's on the active cube, what it will do is it will increase the pulse variable by a very small amount. Excuse me, because keep in mind we are doing like frames per second, which is a lot. I think it's doing like upwards of 60 or more frames a second, probably more. So, and then I just keep track of if the pulse variable goes above 20%, which is 0.2, then it resets it to 0. That's why the pulse goes back down. So it pulses out, and then it goes back down. Pulses out, goes back down. And then each time through, if we're on that particular cube, we scale using the original scale times 1 plus the pulse variable. Okay, there you go. So if we were to scale it by 1 without the pulse variable, there would be no change. But we scale it by 1 plus the pulse variable, which goes from 0 to 0.2, so it's 0 to 20%. So at any one time, it is heading towards pulsing towards 20% of its original size. Great. Now, that's if we're on the cube that's the pulse index. Now, if we're not on the cube that's the pulse index, right, and it's the active cube, which satisfies this right here, then all of a sudden we have to restore the scale, the previous scale. So we use the pulse index that's currently set. We set the 0 to 0 and 2 to 1, right? And then we save the new scales. The new scale of 0 is 0, and the new scale of 1 is 2. Then we save the new index, and we start it all over again, but with a different block. So that's why, as I'm moving around, you can see, all right, come on, start working. You can see that it's pulsing there. If I move over here, it pulses there. Move over here, it's pulsing that one. Move over here, it's pulsing that one. I can hit R and F, and I can leave it, hit R and F, shrink it down. So I can do whatever I want with this world, and I know exactly which cube I'm working with at any one time. So we can start to actually make a world editor. Okay, so this is great. So next I'm going to work on some other things, including saving the state of the world and also a player inventory. All right, stay tuned for those. Thanks very much for watching. See you next time.